Welcome to our fun little study group for PP 5361 theory and management of public service organizations. These are the readings from the required text, Managing Human Behavior in Public and Nonprofit Organizations, Chapter 7.
It sounds so official when you say the course number like that, PP 5361. I feel like I should be sharpening a pencil and, opening a blue book exam.
I know, right? But honestly, I am really looking forward to this one.
Me too. We are tackling the big one today. The topic that launches like 1,000 airport bookstore paperbacks and probably 1 million LinkedIn posts.
Leadership.
Leadership.
I have to admit, when I saw this on the syllabus for this week, I groaned a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not because I don't care about it, obviously it's important, but it just feels like such a dense, overanalyzed buzzword. It feels like every time you turn around, someone is redefining it or, selling a masterclass on it.
I get that. Like, what is there left to say?
Exactly. But then I started reading this chapter, and I realized I might have been looking at it all wrong. I promised myself I'd make this digestible for everyone listening, but the text actually does a lot of the heavy lifting for us.
It really does. And I think the reason people groan and why you might have hesitated is because we tend to think of leadership as this dry list of definitions, or worse, a checklist of how to be a hero.
Totally. Wake up at 4 a.m., take a cold plunge.
Yell at your team and conquer the world.
Right. But this chapter frames it so differently. It explores leadership as this concept that everyone thinks they understand, but, very few people actually grasp the mechanics of.
It's less about who is the boss
Huh.
and more about how does change actually happen in a complicated world.
Yes. And to set the mood, the text opens with this absolute banger of a quote from Lao Tzu, going all the way back to, 600 BC?
Yeah, way back. It totally reframes the ego aspect right out of the gate.
It's a classic for a reason.
It really is.
It goes, "A leader is best when people barely know that he exists. Not so good when people obey and acclaim him. Worst when they despise him." And then it ends with this kicker. "But of a good leader, who talks little, when his work is done, his aims fulfilled, they will all say, 'We did this ourselves.'"
What did this ourselves? That is just such a powerful inversion of how we usually think about leadership, especially in the West.
How so?
Well, we're obsessed with the credit, the
Yeah.
ribbon cutting, the speech, the statue in the park.
Right. Because when I think of the 20th century, or at least the early part of it, my mind immediately goes to the great man theory.
Of course.
I think of the general standing on the hill, barking orders, pointing at the map, and everyone else is just a cog in the machine.
Yeah,
That whole command and control style.
precisely. And that military-industrial model, it dominated for a long, long time. It was all about uniformity. I tell you to march, you march. If I tell you to build a widget, you build a widget. Efficiency was the god they worshipped.
But the source makes a really specific argument for why that general on the hill model is it's failing today.
Because the world isn't an assembly line anymore.
In a nutshell, yeah. The text uses the term turbulent. Society today is turbulent, it's highly interdependent, and it's incredibly diverse.
And the problems we are facing, especially in the public and nonprofit sectors, they aren't simple technical problems where you just follow a manual anymore.
No, they require creative, imaginative solutions.
Yeah.
And if you have a rigid command and control structure, you don't get innovation.
You get conformity, you get people who are terrified to step out of line.
You get yes men.
Exactly. And in a turbulent environment, yes men are dangerous because they won't tell you when the ship is about to hit an iceberg.
So the key shift the chapter identifies, and this is basically the thesis for our entire discussion today, is that leadership is moving from being a position in a hierarchy,
To a process that occurs throughout an organization.
which brings us to this buzzword we hear all the time,
Yeah.
shared leadership.
Right. It's the idea that leadership isn't just for the mayor or the executive director or the CEO. It's a process that anyone can engage in.
So it's distinct from authority.
Totally distinct. Authority is what the org chart gives you. Leadership is what you do.
Okay, so before we get into the modern, we're all in this together vibe, we have to eat our vegetables.
We do. We have to look at how we got here.
The chapter does a really good job of walking through the traditional toolkit of leadership theories.
The history lesson.
The history lesson, yeah. We need to understand the evolution to get where we are now. And it starts with the trait approach, basically asking that age-old question, are leaders born or are they made?
This was the obsession in the early 20th century. Researchers looked at these famous figures, Julius Caesar, Lincoln, Napoleon, probably Ford and Rockefeller too, and they just tried to distill the magic ingredients.
Like alchemy.
It was. They thought, if we can just find the physical or personality traits that these guys had, we can clone leadership.
Like, give me 10% height, 20% deep voice, and 50% stubbornness.
Basically, yes. And the text brings up Ralph Stockdill, who did these massive meta-analyses. He looked at hundreds of studies in 1948 and then, did it again in 1974. He was really trying to crack the code.
And what did he actually find after crunching all that data for, like, 30 years?
Well, he found some things. He found that leaders generally tended to be more intelligent, more dependable, and more active in social situations than non-leaders.
Smart, reliable, and extroverted.
Yeah. Groundbreaking stuff.
Not exactly shocking.
No. But here's the catch, and this is what Stockdill realized that really changed the field. Traits alone didn't work. You could have someone who is brilliant, dependable, tall, has a booming voice, and they could still fail miserably as a leader in a specific situation.
Because the context changes.
Yeah.
Like Winston Churchill was great for a war, but maybe not so great for running a peaceful bureaucratic agency.
Exactly that. A leader who is successful in a calm, structured environment might completely crumble in a chaotic crisis, or vice versa. Stockdill concluded that leadership isn't just about who you are, it's about the relationship between the leader and the group.
It's dyadic.
It is. It depends on who you are leading.
Which leads us to the next big evolution in the research.
Yeah.
The behaviorists. If it's not just about who you are, your DNA, it must be about what you do.
Right. And the source details these famous studies from Ohio State and the University of Michigan.
The Eternal Balancing Act.
That's a good way to put it. These studies basically boiled leadership behavior down to two main levers that a leader can pull. Imagine a control panel with just two giant sliders.
Slider 1 and Slider 2, what are they?
Okay, so slider 1 is initiation of structure. This is the task lever.
The get it done lever.
Exactly. Setting deadlines, establishing standards, defining roles, do this by Friday. Here is the rubric, follow this procedure. It's all about getting the job done.
And Slider 2.
That would be consideration. This is the relationship lever. This is asking, how are you? Checking on morale, making people feel comfortable, building trust. It's about the people who are doing the job.
I feel like every bad boss I've ever had just jammed the task slider up to 100 and then glued the relationship slider down to 0.
And we have a graph for that. The text visualizes this with the managerial grid by Blake and McCancy. It's literally a graph. You've got concern for production on the x-axis and concern for people on the y-axis.
It creates these 5 wonderful archetypes of managers. I want to walk through these because they're so painfully relatable. I think anyone listening has probably worked for at least 3 of these people.
Oh, absolutely. Let's run through them.
Okay, first up, you have the level 1, bottom left corner. Low production concern, low people concern.
That's impoverished management. This is the ghost boss.
The ghost boss, I like that.
Sorry, not my problem. They exert the minimum effort required just to stay employed. They are physically there, maybe hiding in their office, but mentally, they checked out years ago, just avoiding conflict, avoiding work.
Their whole goal is just not to get fired.
That's it. Now go to the opposite corner, the high production, low people.
This is the one I was just talking about.
This is authority compliance. This is the tyrant. Produce or perish. They view human elements like fatigue, morale, or even, a sick kid at home as interference.
Just noise.
Just noise. They just want the numbers. They treat people like parts of a machine. If a part breaks, you replace it. This is that general on the hill, pushed to the extreme.
Okay, now top left, the 1-1, high concern for people, low concern for production.
Country club management.
It sounds nice, actually. Sign me up.
It sounds nice. For about a week. It's the don't worry, be happy boss. The atmosphere is super friendly. Everyone is having a great time. There are birthday parties every other day. But the work output is practically 0.
It's all vibes, no results.
Exactly. And eventually the department loses its funding or fails its mission because nobody's actually doing the job. It's comfort over competence.
Then right in the center, the middle of the road, the compromiser.
That's acceptable.
That's acceptable. They balance things just enough to avoid a mutiny, but not enough to achieve greatness. They'll push for production, but then they'll back off if people complain too much. It's the definition of mediocrity.
Just keeping the peace.
That's the whole game. And finally, the Holy Grail, top right corner, the 9-9 management.
High production, high people. The philosophy here is all for one, one for all. The work creates trust, and the trust creates even better work. The idea is that committed people produce the best results. It assumes there's no trade-off, you can have both.
But, and there is always a but, can you really be a 999 all the time?
Mm.
I mean, can you be team management when the building is literally on fire?
Mm.
Or when you have a budget cut that means layoffs?
And that is the flaw in the grid. It implies there is one single best way. And that segues perfectly to Situational Leadership by Hersey and Blanchard.
Okay.
Their argument was, no, you cannot be the same leader to everyone all the time. You have to adapt to the readiness of the follower.
And readiness here isn't just, are they smart? It's more than that.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. Readiness is a combination of two things: ability and willingness.
Ability and willingness.
The text gives a great example that's relevant to our public service focus. Imagine a social worker. They might be incredible with clients, high empathy, great problem solving. So for client interaction, they have high readiness.
You don't need to hover over them while they talk to a family.
Exactly. That would be insulting, micromanaging. But that same social worker might be terrible at the new database software. They hate it, or they just don't know how to use it.
So for the paperwork, they have low readiness.
Very low. So if you treat them like an expert on the paperwork, if you just leave them alone, it won't get done. But if you micromanage their client sessions, they'll get annoyed and quit.
It's about matching the style to the task and the person.
Precisely. Hersey and Blanchard outlined 4 styles based on this. If someone is unable and insecure, low readiness, you use telling. High task, low relationship.
It's very directive.
Very. Click this button, then type this word. You aren't being mean. You are being helpful by being direct.
And then, as they get better,
You shift. You move to selling, which explains the why, then participating, where you ask for their input, and finally, delegating. If someone is able and confident, high readiness, you just back off. Low task, low relationship, you let them run with it.
the mistake most leaders make is getting stuck in one style.
100%. They are a micromanager to everyone, or they are hands-off with everyone, regardless of what the person actually needs at that moment.
It seems so obvious when you lay it out like that, but it's really hard to do in practice. You have to be a chameleon.
It requires high emotional intelligence to diagnose what people need in the moment. You have to constantly assess, does this person need a cheerleader right now? Or do they need a drill sergeant? Or do they just need me to get out of the way?
The chapter also briefly touches on Fiedler's contingency model and path goal theory, which seem to reinforce this idea of adaptability.
They do. Fiedler adds the layer of position power and task structure. For example, if you're running a DMV, processing licenses is a highly structured task. There are exact steps.
Right. You don't want creativity in a driver's license application. Draw me how you feel about driving.
Exactly. No. We want the form filled out correctly. But if you are designing a new public park or trying to solve homelessness in a district, that is an unstructured task. The leadership style has to change based on the structure of the work itself.
And path goal.
Path goal theory adds that the leader's job is simply to clear the path. Whatever obstacle is in the way, whether it's a lack of resources, lack of confidence, or bureaucratic red tape, the leader's job is to remove it.
Okay, let's move on to part 2. We've done the history, we've seen the grids and the sliders. Now we are looking at the modern leader. What makes a leader today? Because the text presents a new list of key traits or competencies that are essential.
Right, this is figure 7.3 in the book, and this list is fascinating because it blends some of the old with the new.
So what's on it?
Well, you still have intelligence and self-understanding. You have to know the world, but you also have to know yourself, your own biases, your triggers.
Self-confidence is on there too. And I feel like that one can be misinterpreted as arrogance.
It often is, but here it means something very specific. It's key for empowerment. If you are insecure as a leader, you hoard power.
Oh, that's interesting.
You don't share information, you don't delegate because you're afraid someone will overshadow you or take your job. You need a baseline of self-confidence to be generous with power. You have to be secure enough to let other people shine.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
High energy and determination is another one. This one really resonated with me. The text mentions Jim Collins and the level 5 leader.
Professional will. Leadership is physically and emotionally exhausting. It just is. You need stamina. You are often the shock absorber for the organization's stress.
Right. When everyone else is panicking, you have to be the rock.
And that takes energy. But here is the one that really stood out to me. The text cites an IBM study that said the #1 need for future leaders is creativity.
Not what I would have guessed.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But think about who IBM asked CEOs and public sector leaders. Why creativity? Because of complexity. We are dealing with wicked problems in the public sector.
Homelessness, climate change, healthcare disparities.
Exactly. You can't solve those with a rule book from 1990. You need to be able to invite disruptive innovation. You need to imagine solutions that don't even exist yet.
So the bureaucrat of the future isn't a paper pusher. They're an inventor.
Or at least someone who fosters invention. Then we have emotional intelligence and integrity.
Walking the walk.
Always. Which leads directly to Kuz's and Posner's work on the leadership challenge. They surveyed thousands of people and asked a really simple question. What do you admire in a superior?
And the number one answer wasn't genius or rich or politically connected.
Not at all. It was credibility.
Credibility.
Just that. Honest, competent, forward-looking. If I don't believe you, I won't follow you. It's the absolute currency of leadership. Once you spend it, it's incredibly hard to earn back.
And they break down how you build that credibility into 5 practices. I think these are really actionable for our students.
They are. First, model the way. Practice what you preach. If you ask the team to stay late, you stay late. If you cut the budget for coffee, you don't buy yourself a new ergonomic office chair.
You set the example.
You are the example.
That's
Second, inspire a shared vision.
What does that look like?
Stop talking about spreadsheets and start talking about the future. Why are we here? What does the world look like if we succeed? You have to paint a picture that people want to be a part of.
Then challenge the process.
Take risks. Don't just accept, well, we've always done it this way. Public organizations are notorious for inertia. A credible leader pokes at that inertia. They experiment.
Enable others to act.
That's about teamwork, trust, giving people the tools they need, and then getting out of their way.
And last one, encourage the heart.
This is the cheerleading aspect. And it sounds soft, but it is so important. Recognizing contributions, saying thank you.
Especially in the public sector.
Especially, we often can't give huge bonuses or stock options. So encouraging the heart, that recognition, it becomes a primary compensation tool. Making people feel seen is incredibly powerful.
Now, since this is a study group for theory and management of public service organizations, we need to get specific. Why is leading a public agency or a nonprofit so different than leading, say, Apple or Google? Why can't we just copy Steve Jobs?
This is such a critical distinction, and students often miss it. In the private sector, the bottom line is usually profit. It's a clear metric.
Did we make money? Yes or no?
Exactly. If yes, you succeeded. In the public sector, goals are, well, they're ambiguous.
Like improve public safety.
Right. What does that even mean? Fewer arrests, more arrests, better street lighting, community outreach. If arrests go down, does that mean crime is down? Or does it mean the police just stop doing their job? It's debatable.
Plus, you have multiple bosses.
So many bosses. In a company, you answer to the board. In a city agency, you have the mayor, the city council, the taxpayers, the unions, the media, the state oversight board. And they all want different, often conflicting things.
And massive transparency requirements. You can't just make a deal in a back room.
No. Everything you do is subject to a Freedom of Information Act request. So public leadership is actually harder in many ways. You are operating in a fishbowl.
And the text introduces this fascinating concept by Larry Terry called the administrative conservator.
Conservative? It sounds dusty, doesn't it? Like a museum curator brushing dirt off an old vase.
It does. But it's actually a really noble idea.
It is. Terry argues that a public leader isn't just an innovator. They are also a protector. They're protecting public values and institutions.
So they are balancing initiating leadership, making changes, with protecting leadership, preserving the mission.
Right. Imagine you take over the Environmental Protection Agency. You might want to modernize the technology, which is initiating, but you must preserve the core mission of protecting the environment, which is protecting.
You can't just pivot the EPA to sell shoes because it would be more profitable.
You can't.
Yeah.
You hold the institution in trust for the public. You are a steward. You are ensuring that institution survives long after you're gone.
I really like that. It gives a certain weight to the role. It's not just about your career. It's about the institution's integrity.
For sure.
But my favorite concept in this section, and honestly maybe in the whole chapter, is street-level leadership.
Vincent and Crothers. This changes the whole perspective on who is actually running the government.
Yes. The idea that leadership isn't just for the director in the fancy office. It happens at the street level.
Think about a police officer, or a social worker, or a teacher, or even the person working the intake desk at the DMV. They are out there, on the ground, often alone or in small teams.
And they have an immense amount of discretion.
A huge amount. Let's take the police officer. They pull over a teenager for speeding.
Okay.
The law says speeding gets a ticket. That's the rule. But the officer has discretion. They can arrest the kid, give them a ticket, or just give them a stern warning and maybe drive them home to their parents.
And that decision right there in that moment, that's leadership.
It is. It's exercising power and discretion to solve a problem. And it impacts that teenager's life profoundly. Maybe the warning changes their behavior better than a ticket would have. Or maybe the ticket is necessary. The point is, the policy isn't what is written in the handbook at headquarters.
The policy is what that officer does on the side of the road.
That's it. That is a huge realization. If we only look at the top of the organizational chart, we are missing where the actual governance is happening.
So as a manager, you have to realize that your street-level bureaucrats are actually the leaders of your agency in the eyes of the public.
You do. You have to empower them and train them as leaders, not just as rule followers. You have to trust their judgment.
Which brings us to the deeper, almost philosophical part of the chapter, values and transformation. We get into Heifetz here and the concept of adaptive work.
This is so essential for anyone wanting to make real, lasting change. Heifetz distinguishes between technical work and adaptive work.
Break that down for us.
Okay, technical work is applying current know-how to routine problems. The road has a pothole, we have asphalt, we know how to fill it. It's a logistics problem.
Fill the bottle, done.
Exactly. It's technical. We can hire an expert to do it. But adaptive work requires changing values, beliefs, and behaviors.
So using the road example, if the problem is people are driving too fast in this neighborhood and hitting pedestrians, just filling a pothole won't fix it.
Right. Putting up a speed limit sign is a technical fix, but people ignore signs. The adaptive problem is the culture of the drivers. They are in a hurry. They don't value pedestrian safety enough. To fix that, you have to change the culture. You have to make the community want to slow down.
And that is so much harder. People hate changing their values.
It's painful, and leadership failure, Heifetz argues, often comes from treating an adaptive problem like it's a technical one.
How so?
You throw a technical fix like a new software system or a reorganization chart or a new rule book at a problem that is actually about culture and trust, and it fails. And then the leader gets blamed.
Speaking of values, we have to talk about the debate between transactional and transformational leadership. This felt like the heavyweight boxing match of the chapter.
It is one of the biggest debates in the field, for sure.
Transactional seems pretty straightforward. It's a transaction.
Quid pro quo. I give you a paycheck, you give me work, vote for me, and I'll lower your taxes. It's an exchange, and it's necessary. It keeps the ship steady, it makes sure the trash gets picked up, and the payroll goes out.
But transformational leadership, that's the spicy stuff.
That's James McGregor Burns. He argued that transformational leadership occurs when leaders and followers engage with each other in a way that raises them both to higher levels of morality and motivation.
Their interests fuse.
Exactly. It's not just about the job, it's about the cause with a capital C. It's Gandhi, it's MLK. But this definition sparked a huge academic fight centered around, of all people, Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, I read this part and was like, whoa, okay, are we really doing this? But it's a really important test case.
It is. So James McGregor Burns argued that Hitler was not a leader.
Because leadership, for him, must be moral.
Yes. Burns believed that leadership, by definition, must serve the followers' real needs. Since Hitler led Germany into ruin and committed unspeakable atrocities, he wasn't leading, he was just wielding naked power. He was a tyrant, not a leader. He duped the followers, he didn't uplift them.
But then you have Bernard Bass.
Right. Bass took a different view. He said, look, purely objectively, Hitler transformed Germany. He changed the value system of an entire country, even if it was for evil. He motivated millions. He had a massive impact.
So for Bass, he was a transformational leader.
He was. That is
Where?
Deeply uncomfortable, right?
Sure.
But it highlights the tension between effectiveness and ethics. Bass focuses on impact and influence. Burns focuses on morality.
And for our study group here, the text doesn't really tell us who is right, does it?
No, it asks us to grapple with it. Can you be a great leader if you are leading people off a cliff? Or is morality a prerequisite for even using the title leader? It asks us to consider if leadership is just a neutral tool, like a hammer, that can be used to build a house or crack a skull.
I think that leads nicely into the concept of servant leadership by Greenleaf, because that seems to be the antidote to the tyrant as leader problem.
It absolutely is. Robert Greenleaf argued that the leader must be a servant first. The litmus test isn't, did we win, or did profits go up? The test is this. Do those served grow as persons? Do they become wiser, freer, more autonomous?
It's almost a spiritual concept.
It is. It's about stewardship.
Mm.
Holding the institution in trust for the public good. It shifts the focus entirely away from the leader's ego and onto the followers' well-being. And it basically solves the Hitler problem by saying, if the followers are destroyed, it wasn't leadership.
Okay, moving into part 5. Leadership in a complex, diverse world. We touch on shared leadership in the intro, but this section really breaks down the mechanics of collaborative public management.
This is the reality of the modern world. We are moving away from the hero leader to networks. If you are trying to solve homelessness in a city, the mayor can't do it alone. You have the city government, the county, the state, federal grants, nonprofits, religious groups, private developers.
And nobody's technically in charge of the whole thing. The mayor can't just order the Catholic Church to open a shelter.
Exactly. You have no command authority. You have to collaborate. Thompson Perry talk about the difficulty of reconciling autonomy, which is my organization's needs, with mutuality, our shared goal.
That sounds exhausting. Just endless meetings where everyone is protecting their own turf.
It can be, but it's necessary. And it requires a completely different skill set. It's not about command. It's about negotiation, facilitation, and trust building. You have to be an architect of agreement, not a commander of troops.
And on top of that, we have the layer of diversity in culture. The text mentions Hofstede and the G. Loeb study.
This is crucial if you are leading a diverse team or working internationally. Hofstede talks about this concept of power distance.
I found this really helpful. Break down power distance for us.
It's the extent to which less powerful members of organizations accept and expect that power is distributed unequally. In low power distance cultures like the US or the Netherlands or Scandinavia, subordinates expect to be consulted.
They want to say.
They do. If the boss just gives orders, people get annoyed. They think, who does he think he is? They value a sense of equality.
But in high power distance cultures.
In places like many Latin American, Asian, or African countries, there is often a higher expectation of hierarchy. Subordinates expect the leader to lead. If the leader comes in and asks, so what do you all think we should do? The subordinate might think the leader is incompetent.
Like, why are you asking me? You're the boss. You're supposed to know.
Exactly. So a style that works in a startup in New York might fail miserably in a manufacturing plant in Tokyo or Brazil. You have to code switch your leadership style. You have to read the cultural room.
And the G. Loeb study seemed to back this up on a massive scale.
It did. 17,000 managers in 62 nations. And they found that while some things are culturally specific, there are universals.
Okay, what's a universal positive? What does everyone like in a leader?
Charismatic, value-based, being inspiring. Everyone, everywhere likes a leader who inspires them and creates a vision.
And a universal negative. What does everyone hate?
Self-protective. A leader who is constantly face-saving, who induces conflict, or who throws others under the bus to save themselves. Nobody, anywhere, likes a narcissist who protects their own ego at the expense of the tribe. That disdain is universal.
Then we have the generational aspect, the geeks versus geezers study.
Bennis and Thomas. It's a funny title, but it captures a really important shift.
Okay, so who are the geezers?
The geezers, and they use this term affectionately, are the generation that grew up in the analog era, the World War II or post-war generation. Their model was command and control, stability, paying your dues.
The career ladder.
Exactly. You work hard, you shut up, and in 20 years you get the promotion.
And the geeks?
Digital natives. They grew up with nonlinear information. Video games, the internet. They saw the Twin Towers fall. They saw the dot-com bubble burst. They know stability is an illusion.
The geeks want to change the world, not just make a living.
And they value work-life balance. They don't want to pay their dues for 20 years before they have a voice. They want to be heard now. And this creates massive friction in the workplace.
The older generation thinks the younger ones are entitled.
And the younger generation thinks the older ones are dinosaurs. A modern leader has to bridge that gap. You have to translate between the two value systems.
Okay, we are in the home stretch, part 6. Emotion, art, and the jazz of leadership. This feels like the grand finale.
It is. It's where we leave the science behind and really enter the art.
We start with Daniel Goleman and emotional intelligence, or EQ.
For a long, long time, we thought IQ was everything. If you were the smartest person in the room, you were the leader. But Goleman showed that EQ, knowing your emotions, managing them, having empathy, is actually twice as predictive of leadership success in top positions as IQ is.
Twice as predictive. Wow.
Yeah, and he talks about primal leadership. It's the idea that great leadership works through emotions. It creates resonance. When a leader is in sync with the group, the emotional climate is positive and people perform better. When there is dissonance, when the leader is tone deaf to the mood or angry or cold performance tanks.
So the leader is the emotional thermostat of the room.
Perfectly put. If the leader is anxious, the room is anxious. If the leader is calm, the room calms down.
And finally, the text moves to the metaphor that I think sums all of this up perfectly. Leadership as art, specifically jazz.
Max Dupree and the Denharts. I love this metaphor. It moves us so far away from scientific management.
Explain it. Why jazz?
Okay, think about a symphony orchestra. You have a conductor, you have sheet music. Everyone plays exactly what is written. If the first violin player decides to improvise, they ruin the song.
That's traditional management.
That is the DMV processing a license. It's beautiful, but it's rigid.
It's jazz.
Jazz involves improvisation. There is a theme, there is a tempo. The leader sets those. But then the leader listens. They allow others to take a solo. They react to what the group is doing in real time. It's a conversation between instruments.
It's for when the sheet music runs out.
Exactly. In a crisis or in a complex public policy negotiation, there is no sheet music. You can't look up the answer in a manual. You have to improvise. You have to listen to the rhythm of the group. Denhart says leadership involves rhythm and timing, much like a dance.
It's about knowing when to step in and play a note and when to step back and let the drummer do their thing.
It is. It's about flow. It's messy. It's risky. But when it works, it's beautiful. And it requires immense trust among the players.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground. We went from the great man traits to the styles and grids to situational adaptability to the deep ethical questions of transformation and service, and finally to the art of jazz.
It's really a journey from leadership as a person to leadership as a process.
The text gives us a definition for the course. Leadership energizes. It stimulates others to recognize latent needs and work together.
Leadership energizes. I like that. It strips away all the ego. It's not about you shining. It's about you providing the energy for the group to shine.
It's about sparking something in others.
Yeah. So what does this all mean for us? For the student listening to this, maybe worrying about their midterms?
It means that leadership isn't a position you wait for. You don't have to wait until you are the commissioner or the CEO. It is an activity you can do right now.
Right. Whether you are a student doing a group project, a mid-level manager, or that street-level bureaucrat we talked about, you can lead by energizing those around you. You can listen. You can adapt. You can protect values.
And you can improvise.
You can improvise.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to mull over, something that isn't explicitly resolved in the text, but it just kept nagging at me.
Let's hear it.
We talked about the Hitler controversy, that tension between morality and effectiveness. And we just talked about leadership as jazz, an art form of improvisation.
Right.
So here's my question. If we accept that leadership is an art, like jazz, are we practicing our instruments enough to actually improvise when the pressure is on? Or are we just waiting for the crisis to hit and hoping we can play a solo? And connecting it to the darker side, can a toxic person be a virtuoso leader? Can you play the music perfectly, hit all the KPIs, get the budget passed, but still destroy the band?
That is a haunting question. Can you have a beautiful performance that rots the soul of the performers? I think the answer might be yes, and that is why the servant leadership piece is so critical. It's the check on the virtuoso's ego. It ensures the music is for everyone, not just the soloist.
Something to think about as you tackle the rest of the reading. Thanks for joining our study group.
Always a pleasure. Now go practice your instrument.
See you next time.